if you would also be willing to tell us how your experience has gone, and now you have ego thoughts that still jump in and you just dismiss them, or can you just give us a little more of your experience from that perspective?
I remember watching that peace program video myself down there in Georgia, and her drawing that graph of the peak experience, as she called them, and then the ups and downs, and then kind of leveling out, and then kind of just like this line just going up, up and away. You know, it just was beautiful, and it was very inspirational to me. And I think it does get to be that very much like the closer you get down to the ego, to the core, the more it's very afraid for its existence. We do have some really good clips about all these things, so we'll get into some of those. But I think, of course, the ego wants to have some kind of a self-concept to build on. And I had so many, even with the Course in Miracles years ago, really after I studied it for 8 hours a day and pretty much memorized it, I thought, oh, the ego's like saying, good, 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 you can make a good career out of this. Books, fame, fortune, infomercials, you know, it was like, it's always, it will take anything. It takes a spiritual journey and something like the Course, and it will try to turn it into, you know, mega something, you know, it wants to make something of it. So I remember in the early years, there was this magazine that went all over, John Mundy's magazine, Miracles magazine. It was called On Course back then, and he asked me to write an article for it. It was distribution all over the world for Course students, and he asked me to send in a photograph, and people said, oh David, you don't even have photographs, you use them all for your healing, and then you pitched them in the trash can. But I said, oh, I think I could find a photograph, and I wrote an article, sent in a photograph, and John sent me a complimentary magazine, and it was, the photograph didn't come out in the magazine, it was totally figure ground. You couldn't see any facial expressions. You know, the spirit was like, no, it's not about, we're not going down that road. And then later on I had a friend of mine was going to this National Course in Miracles conference way back in the early 1990s, I think it was, and the man who was organizing the conference said, why don't you get David, have David send in his resume. Again, people said, you don't even have a resume, you deleted your resume, you don't even have a resume. I said, oh, I can come up with something. So I put something down, and I mailed it in, and it got lost in the mail. You know, I mean, these were like unmistakable signs, like, do you want to wake up, or do you want a spiritual career? See how the career idea is a very linear thing as well. The ego is saying, well, is there going to be a tough cookie here, get into all this spiritual stuff, we'll just have to turn it into a spiritual career. Came in was, you know, you'll never accept money, you'll never charge money for anything you do. That kind of throws water on the career fire. He was like, what? What have I got to work with here? Come on, throw me a bone here or something, you know. But so I've had great guidance along the way that really helped. And then I'd say the more you get into your joy and your function, it's just like when the sun rises, you know, and burns away the dew and the mist and the fog. As you give ascendance to this purpose in your mind, and you get into the happiness and joy of it, then of course the ego has no chance. It's not like the sun is doing battle with the dewdrops, you know. It's like the sun, this massive source of heat, and then, you know, the dewdrops are just gone, you know, they just kind of evaporate and they're gone. That's very much the way that it goes with purpose. You get more and more into your purpose. Carl gave me his card here. I think I've got it in one of my pockets here, but it was all these wonderful things in there. Teacher, philosopher. See, the Holy Spirit has to take the world of concepts and images, and then it has to start to raise you up using those concepts. So you have a self-concept that's kind of woe is me and low and I'm not worthy and this and this and this, and then the Spirit starts to use some of the self-concepts and say, here, come with me, I'll take you on a journey. Ah yes, here's what Carl gave me this card. artist, writer, teacher, philosopher, entrepreneur, and consultant. See, it's the Spirit works with the concepts and takes us, uses the skills and abilities that were developed in an ego framework and just says, good, give them to me. And we're going on a journey where I'll take you to a state of mind where everything is unified, and all these skills and abilities that were developed in an ego framework will be used on our journey in a new direction. Away from bigger, better, faster, more. Away from look at me, look at what I've made of myself. Away from Horatio Alger, pull yourself up from your bootstraps and make something of yourself. It's really let yourself, that the ego self, be dissolved away and completely reinterpreted to a higher purpose. So that's how it works. That's how it's gone for me. It's a sense of no, it's not like this. There's no struggle with the ego. It's like when the purpose rises in your mind and you give it this ascended position, then the other stuff is like the Wicked Witch of the West. There really wasn't a battle there at the end. The water flew, landed on the Wicked Witch of the West, and then you had a cap and gown that was left. The water and the witch didn't do a final showdown like, Alien versus Predator, final showdown, Green Witch versus the water. The water just hit the witch, and the witch was gone. So that's the way that it's gone in my life.